Hello, everyone, and welcome to Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. I'm Will Schick, Director of Product Development. Excited to be back with you all after several weeks off, running around in the UK for Star Wars Celebration, before that for Adepticon. So it's been a little bit, but I have to say it's very exciting to be back here and getting to paint a Star Wars Shatterpoint miniature for the first time on camera for myself. I know Dallas has done a couple of them with you so far. We're going to be doing Bo-Katan today. On top of that, not only are we going to be painting a Shatterpoint miniature, but I thought, why not, for my first one back, dive into painting with some oil paints today. So we're going to be doing Bo-Katan all in oils. I'm going to show you kind of how I've been learning how to do it. I'm still very new at it. This is going to be miniature like number 5 that I've painted in oils. So you can see how I screw it up. You can learn from my mistakes. But I'll kind of show you this fun new technique that I've been trying to dive into and learning from a lot of great people on the internet and through other videos about. I have to say, I'm really in love with it, even though it's a struggle and I have challenges with it. I do really enjoy painting with oils. I find the whole process to be really fun and very different. And it works super well on single miniatures like Star Wars Shatterpoint minis. So because you only have to do one of them, you kind of get to spend some time with it. And you get like a whole week to go and change and fix things and all of that stuff. So with that, let's go ahead and jump on, and we got lots of stuff to do. Boop! All right, so you'll notice that my Bo-Katan here has a whole bunch of oil paint already on her. And this is because this is kind of like my staining stage. So the videos that I've been watching, the techniques that I've kind of been learning, this is one of the big things. It's kind of like Bob Ross, right? So you're gonna slap a whole bunch of oil paint, kind of your foundational color on, and then normally with a makeup sponge, but I totally forgot my makeup sponges because everything goes super well. After you've given it about 15 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes to sit, you go through and you basically wipe off all of your foundational layer. And so you want to be kind of light with this. And effectively, this is kind of like zenith priming on steroids, because you can control how much paint you remove from each area. And because of that, you can kind of create your nice little transitions and your gradations and color and all of that stuff really quick. But for the most part, you want to get down to a very thin layer of paint and color, and normally makeup sponges are better for this than Q-tips because Q-tips leave behind little fuzzies. But the one thing I forgot when I left my house at 5 a.m. this morning to get on a ferry to come join everybody at the office was my makeup sponges. So we'll make do, it'll be fine. There just might be a couple little fuzzies with us. But you effectively just are going to wipe away as much as possible. And one of the great things about this is, of course, you're not going to be able to reach into those recessed areas as much, so those are going to stay a lot darker. And what I did for my foundational glaze, or my foundational like coverage, since you didn't see it, pull away that fuzzy there, grab another one of my Q-tips because that one's getting kind of full, is I just mixed a little Prussian blue with some midnight black to create kind of like a dark blue for my shade. And one of the big tricks with this is that, well, you can use all kinds of different oils for this stuff, especially for your staining stage. It's really beneficial to kind of jump from like student oils into higher end like mid-grade or artist grade oils because they'll stain better for you. And obviously the staining is a real big part of the whole trick that we're going to do today and some of the stuff that I'll show off. So that is that. So we're just going to continue to wipe away all this stuff and have a lot of excitement. Hope everyone had a wonderful couple of weeks while I was away. We had a lot of fun at Star Wars Celebration. Got to see a lot of cool stuff. Got to show off Shatterpoint. Adepticon was a blast. I got to meet a whole bunch of people there who I've sadly probably kind of like blurred into one entity at this point between all of the flying, all of the different folks that I've met from the different conventions, but it was a wonderful time, and that's why makeup sponges are better. It's okay though. We'll muddle through. But it was awesome to get to see everybody playing all the games, see people get their first experience with Shatterpoint. Got the extreme privilege of being able to go up on the Star Wars Celebration main stage with our head of studio, Simone Elliott, and kind of show off Shatterpoint to the entirety of the Star Wars Galaxy audience. That was super cool and totally unexpected. So hopefully one or two folks have learned a thing or two about this game type they'd never heard of and might go check it out later. But we did a Ton of demos. The demo staff at both Adepticon and Star Wars Celebration were just phenomenal. Amazing folks all around. They worked their butts off, getting people hyped for Shatterpoint, showing everybody kind of the experience of the game, and they get together with it. So just a good time. Whoop. Pull off that fuzzy there. Shoop. We have happy little fuzzies. That's right. Today we do. And I'll be picking off happy little fuzzies forever. So again, make sure that you have the makeup sponges with you. You know, that's important. But you can kind of see how the more you kind of pull off paint from an area, the more you can affect kind of the overall values and everything that's going on there. One of the things I really like about this is you can actually make some really cool non-metallic metals without any real training or understanding, because you just kind of pull the paint away and you'll get these nice, really good looking gradations. All right, so I think I'm pretty happy with this. Let's see if we can just like peel a bit more away under that. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna call that good. Could fiddle with it a little bit more, but I'm pretty happy with this, and I think we want to get into painting. So let's go ahead and really quickly, I'm going to pull up my Bo-Katan cheat sheet here, because I don't remember where all the colors go on her suit. So I'm going to need that to help out. Great. Sure, that'll work. All right. So with that in play, let's go ahead and get going. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out some cerulean blue. We'll start on the armor here. Boop. Cerulean blue, get some black. I'll move it under the camera since I think that's still a camera. Summer says yes. We're very happy. Prussian blue maybe. Build that out. Could have gotten my palette ready beforehand, but I was busy staining beforehand, so it's fine. All right, let's see. And what else do we need? We're gonna need some gray, so we'll need some white. One of the things that I've been doing personally is, because I'm not super keen on non-metallic metals and I have a lot of room to grow and improve on them, is I've been combining oil paints with traditional acrylic metallics, so true metallics from using acrylics. And that has worked out really well. You can do both with them if you so choose. And we need a brown, so we'll get some browns out. Oop. And this little brown. Oh, so linsealed oily. All right. The owl pattern is molded into the helmet, so it is all inset design, so you don't have to freehand it. As long as you keep your paint thin and smooth, you'll be able to utilize all of that with either like a pin wash or anything like that. So the design is all right in there. And you do have the option, if you so choose, to do Bo-Katan without the helmet, and you can do the bare head. So yeah, we like to really do what we can when it comes down to I need a little bit of odorless paint thinner. We try to do our best when it comes to detailing to make sure that, you know, important like pieces are, or fine detail is as easy to paint as possible. A lot of times that means doing inset lines or doing raised areas and stuff like that. Okay, let's grab a paper towel because that's going to be important. Yeah, you get a bear head. B-E-A-R, bear. Because I don't know if you know this, but she's part of the Ursine race of Mandalorians. So we're just going to come in and we're going to start laying in our colors. And I want a little bit of this Prussian blue. I think I'm going to mix that in just a little bit here. And so one of the really fun things about oils is the fact that you can go really high value and they'll just mix, like all of your mixing is basically done on the mini itself or on the canvas itself. So you can get really, really nice blends and effects and everything, and it's a lot easier to do than it might be with, say, traditional acrylics. And you also have an insane amount of working time. So even when we're finished here, I will have probably 2 days to be able to go back in and make like significant changes and everything. And I just think that's like super cool. So again, it's a really fun technique that's very different, but super rewarding in its own ways, and just opens up a lot of opportunities for exploration and fun. And some of the biggest challenges with it are, learning how the paint reacts, and oils are obviously very different. You can pull them off the mini so easily compared to acrylics because they don't dry. So you do have to be kind of aware of where your fingers are. Learning thick paint versus thin paint and how those will react to each other to make sure that the paint sticks is a little different. So there's a lot of little learning curves that go along with it. But it's kind of part of the fun of the journey and just learning and exploring with it. Fuzzy. I think somebody asked how it was to be on stage at Celebration. It was pretty phenomenal. I didn't ever in a million billion years think that I would wind up in that situation where I was there, just hanging out on stage, doing things. So it was pretty wild, but really phenomenal show. Great folks all around. We had a blast being there and getting to do all the stuff. So it was a good time. All right, let's clean that off. Let's dive into a little white. Mix up some of that. A little bit of this. A little bit thinner. We'll just kind of come in and start doing our highlights. And honestly, I think, even though the chest plate on Bo is normally silver, we might just make it blue just to kind of like show things off. Definitely going to do the jetpack blue. I don't know. I have the light on here. Is that better? It's worse for me. Is that better? Look, you set it up. You told me it was ready. It's your fault, Summer. I just turned the light on. So I blame Dallas. He was the last one to use it. I mean, I just pushed the button, Summer. That's all I did. I pushed the button that said on. That was it. Oh, can I confirm the rumor about the rumors, not just rumors, but rumors and rumors and rumors? I'm not even really sure what the rumor is, so can confirm that it's a rumor or not. And so my favorite part of the whole learning to paint oils technique that we're going to get to here. You'll notice that my brush strokes are really, really apparent, and it doesn't look particularly amazing right now probably. You're like, oh, well, it's very artsy, but it's not exactly what I would call smooth. We're going to do some scumbling later, which is the technique name that I've forgotten so many times, but I remember today, so I'm pretty proud of myself. And scumbling is probably my favorite part of the entire process. And that will be how you remove a lot of your brush strokes. Come here, Fuzzy. Boop. From the thing. All right. Shift over, and we'll get into the bodysuit here. So, I'm going to take that out. Take a bit of this black. I don't have a gray, so we're going to mix up a gray really quick. Maybe a little bit of this Prussian blue. A bit more titanium white. A bit more titanium white. So all I'm really doing is I'm just trying to like make a little bit of a highlight color here. Kind of a mid-tone like normal. Grab a little bit of this. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. So the minis on like the box and in the rule book and everything, they were not painted with oils. They were done with acrylics. So very much like you see us paint, or you saw Dallas paint over the last couple of weeks. Oils, there aren't a ton of painters that use oils necessarily. Although I would say that they're growing. It's a growing kind of trend. You see more and more folks kind of playing with them and working with them, and it's because they just offer a lot of versatility. They offer things that, they just do things that acrylics obviously don't do. And they're fun. They're fun, they're very available, so they're just a cool option to have. And one of the things that I've been doing a lot with oils before I really like jumped all the way into them was I was doing a lot of oil washes and kind of like oil staining with them, where I would finish like painting something with acrylics and then, whoop, we'll fix that later. It's the best part. I don't have to immediately fix my mistakes. Oh, so great. Just screw up, stick with it, go for it. But you would finish, you'd paint the miniature all on acrylics, and then once it was all done and dried, you could go through and you could use like an oil wash to do pin washes, and add depth and definition, or you could do like a whole oil shade. And because oils have different properties than acrylics, you kind of like slather them all on, but then you can, like we did at the start with the staining, you do the same thing with, fully painted acrylic miniatures. You can go through and pull off the stain in places where you don't want it, or you feel like it doesn't really work that well. And it just offers so much flexibility that it was a really great way to kind of finish or bring miniatures across the finish line. And so that got me kind of comfortable with how they worked and what they were trying to do. And then from there, I started watching some videos, and I just became really intrigued and fascinated with the idea of kind of utilizing oils to do whole miniatures. So let's get this black in there. We'll kind of shade in these colors. So we'll add our darks now. You'll notice as we continue to go through, the paint will mix on the brush, so sometimes you do have to go through and clear off the brush. But again, because of the super long work times that you get on this, you have so much flexibility and time to come back and mess with blends and make things darker, make things lighter. Kind of blend things away on the Mini itself. That it just becomes really, really enjoyable. Very different, very fun. Yeah, absolutely. Like for me, well, I've been doing a lot of stuff with just oils. I agree. Dat Moon runes, that doing a combination of the different techniques and stuff, it just leads to these really great, just leads to these really strong results. And so doing the mixing and matching is a great, as like paint with acrylics, do what you can do in acrylics well, do what you can do in oils well, and just come through and make it all work. All right, I'm going to grab some of this. I'm going to grab some of this. Make a really bright color here. Some of this. And then we're just going to kind of come through and hit our highlights here. Tap in those. Back over here. Do that. Here. Some of that. And then at any point, if I feel like I've gone too far on my highlights or not really happy with like where they've turned out, again, I can just go back through and grab some of my original color, kind of mix them back together. If I want to deepen shadows, I can go even further. Maybe I just want this edge to be really dark, so I hop in there and grab some black, and it just mixes right there on the miniature. It's so fun, so cool. So you do have so much control over how it works. Maybe I just want to like really push these edges. So I can go through and I can do that. And then again, once we get to that scumbling portion, I can, like I made a little mistake right there and I've got white paint on my blue. Blend it right away. Like it just goes right away. It's so cool. Come up to this helmet here. And because of the way that the paint on your brush will get darker the more you use it, because it'll, not only will the paints mix on the Mini, they'll mix on your brush too. You can use that as another kind of like effective quote unquote cheat, because if you start where your light source is the strongest and you paint down, then by the time you reach the bottom or the lower levels of the Mini, you're going to see that that color is going to be darker because it'll have mixed with all of those deeper colors from your pre-stain. And so it makes a really great fast track kind of cut to getting those great transitions in value and color and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's just a really fun technique that allows exploration. And if you're good at, or if you have any experience with, unlike myself, with doing a lot of non-metallic metals, I mean, oils are perfectly suited for non-metallic metals. The things that take so much work with acrylics to do, you can do in seconds with oils, so it's very cool. All right. So, yeah, and I mean, honestly, if you just go painting miniatures with oils on like YouTube or anything like that, you're gonna find so many incredible resources and folks that have done great things. And there's, you know, it feels like in a lot of ways there's just as many different techniques for doing it, for painting miniatures with oils, as there are painting miniatures with acrylics. So a lot of it comes down to like find the method that really speaks to you and that does what you want, and you know, go with it. And the one that I'm showing you is just kind of like the combination of different techniques that I've been watching and trying out that have really spoke to me and worked well for me, but you may be like, I don't like that way. There's a better way. Or I've been doing this for a year and I like my way. And I would be like, I get it. We all kind of develop our own specific techniques and stuff. Okay, let's go back to our gray, which means I need some more white because I'm sloppy when it comes to this stuff. And let's build up our gray over here, get a bit of a higher value. Grab some of our thinner, back in, get going. It seems like it'll be fine. One of those situations where, see, my acrylic bias is coming through, and I made that highlight not strong enough. And so the second that I applied it to the mini, it just kind of immediately disappeared. So I'll just make it a little bit higher. Go. Come over here, hit that. Some those colors in. Right there. The backside a bit. Come in here. That. That. clean off my brush really quick. Again. A little overboard on that, but that's okay. The knee. Okay. It's Dallas Kemp. He's just coming in all quiet. He's got a bucket. He's going to grab some of the studio minis out of here. He's living his best life right now. What's up? What you got? Oh!
Hey, Bo-Katan, where'd that Darksaber go? I need it back.
Oh my gosh! And now it's a show. You can't have the Darksaber back.
You need it back.
No, she's keeping it. She's keeping it. All right. Let's go into the helmet, and I just need to really quick. Yeah. Okay. Great. So we'll just kind of come into the helmet here. Yeah, we are going to be streaming some games for Shatterpoint soon. I think end of the month, actually, or somewhere around there. Come here, Fuzzy. You're killing me. You're killing me. Yeah, so sometime right around the end of the month, I believe, we've got stuff going on for Shatterpoint. Oh, come here. Yeah, gotcha. So, if you're looking forward to seeing some gameplay streams, that's going to be happening fairly soon, actually. Fairly soon. That should be a good time. I think I get rid of a Fuzzy, and a Fuzzy comes right back. Literally the worst. The worst. Let's get in there with this thing here. And we're just gonna a little bit of that in. A bit of that in. That nice little white going on. And we'll grab a little bit of black. Really deepen that up. Come in and mix this out. Okay, and then I come in with this. I can't tell you anything about the background noise. That's a summer question, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot going on at that show. And right when that demo kind of was wrapping up, when I was rushing through everything right at the end, that was right when they'd open the halls and we had a bunch of Voracious attendees coming in to get their demos for the day. So we had to move right along very quickly. But I thought you all played some kind of like chill lo-fi beats now when we weren't talking. Well, see, maybe. Lo-fi beats? Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Get it all in there. Okay. All right. I'm pretty happy with this. Let's go ahead and think about how to do these chess pieces here. Come in like this. And I'll show you how bad I am at non-metallic metals. That's what we'll do today. We'll do our best. So we'll just knock these out really quick. Where are we at? We got 20 minutes left. I'm scumbling before this is over, so. We're going to do some scumbling. But let's get those. And then we'll do some browns. Here, hit those. Ooh, too much. See, I'm being really quiet because I have to focus really hard on this whole process. No, I have to go back in. We really got to darken some stuff up, but we'll do that later. Okay, let's grab our browns really quick. Just do our leathers. And get the belt around our midsection. Just little pouchies. Let's just come in and do some really quick. All right. Okay. Let's do some scumbling. No, non-metallic metal is super tricky, I think. I mean, it's one of those things where the more you practice, obviously, the easier it gets. Okay, let's go ahead and do some scumbling. So scumbling is basically where you just take a clean, dry brush and you come in and you find where your brush strokes are showing and you just tap. And what it does is it smooths the blends between the different sections and makes everything look much nicer than the way you laid it out. And the big trick with it is to just make sure that as you work, your brush will pick up more and more paint, so you want to be aware of how much paint is on the brush. And you obviously want to use one brush per section. So like hopefully right here where we had that big difference in color, you can see how it just kind of like smooths away. And I love this part of the whole process because it just feels like magic. Like I'm just like, look at these gross little brush strokes. Then you're like, oh my gosh, look at them. Oh, and it's like they were just never there. And everything blends all nice and smooth. And it looks so good. You come over like this hand, you're like, oh, we were really sloppy on this hand. And you just start scumbling it in. It just kind of disappears. And it becomes so nice and smooth, like it was always meant to be. And then, remember, clean, dry brush, so I'll switch to a different brush. Not that one. Where'd my other brush go? No. Come here, brush. Oh, you're stuck. There we go. Then we'll go to the blue. just start tapping. And come over to here. We can scumble any of those spots where we want that transition to be less sharp, or we have a brush stroke that we don't like. Here, I'm pretty happy with that. Right here on the shoulder pad, we'll just kind of like smooth that transition out. The helmet. Come back here. Just scumble it away, or like this little gross splooch that we had right there. We can just clean, dry brush. Blend it right away. Just pull it on out. I feel like this collar we didn't quite get to enough, so we'll just use what paint's on our brush from our scumbling, and we can come in and kind of like pluck it back out. Clean it off on a paper towel. Just scumble, scumble, scumble. As far as like easier to paint, harder to paint, I think that when it comes to wanting to spend a lot of time with a single miniature or character and kind of doing what I'm doing here, where I'm just arting it up and taking my time and screwing around, allowing myself to just get lost in the process. The Shatterpoint miniatures with their larger size and their details and stuff are just, they're much better for that. But I wouldn't want to paint an entire unit of, 6 miniatures at this size. It's just too much, right? That would slow down the process so much and make everything so difficult. So it really comes into like, what are you looking for out of the miniature experience, like? And I think when you just want to sit down and kind of give yourself room to explore the Shatterpoint minis based on their size and the amount of details that they have and all that stuff, it just works out really, really well. And I really, really like it. So from a pure kind of painting art side of things, I feel like the Shatterpoint minis are exactly where I would want them. And that was a lot of our conversation that we had when we were looking at it. We knew players didn't have to spend their time painting entire units, that realistically 2 supporting characters was going to be the maximum number of kind of quote-unquote repeats that you would wind up having to do. And so we were able to give the freedom and the space to go bigger, to get a bit more intense when it came to the scope of the detail and the miniatures themselves, and get a bit larger. And it also just drives into the whole point of the game, right? The characters in Shatterpoint are larger than life. They're heroic characters, quote unquote heroic. So they they need to have a presence and a look that immediately makes you go, oh, visually I know what this is. This is Saturday morning cartoons. These are characters that are larger than life. They're sort of, well, not superheroes. They're superhero-ish in nature, right? Clone Wars, to me, always, the animated series, always felt a little bit like if I was a kid in the Galactic Republic and I was watching Galactic Republic propaganda on the course of the war, you know, this is what I'd be seeing. I would be watching this exact show, right? The villains are extra villainous and the heroes are extra heroic. And the situations are big and meaningful, but at the same time there's not really a deep weight to them. Okay, let's see here. Let's see if we can't get some of our little bit of shadow back into that. A little too much paint thinner there. So you do have to be careful when you're doing the thinning that you don't wind up doing too much, because then you'll obviously affect and pull off the paint below. So you got to be careful there. Where I really want it though is I'm gonna go ahead and just do some pin washes really quick. Or plot some of those shadows. I don't know that I would start with the Mandos for the oil washing or for oils, just because they've kind of got a lot of like little crevices and stuff going on. I would probably start with maybe like Maul or Anakin. Anakin would be a great one because he's just got a lot of open cloth. And so you kind of have that ability to explore and learn the medium before you start going in and having to deal with, you know, all these different areas and a lot of different materials, because you've got metals and you've got fabric and you've got, you know, these segments of armor plates and everything. And so it's definitely, and I realized that I missed all of these little straps right here, but whatever. It's definitely challenging, right? It's pushing the boundaries. So the ones that I've done so far have been kind of more simple. Like B1s would be a great one to practice oils on because they're so straightforward and simple in terms of design, right? Those would be an ideal practice spot. And then my other suggestion would be to, you know, maybe don't do it on a stream that you only have an hour for, and a mean director in summer who's not going to let you go longer than that because you only get an hour. Seems debatable. But the explosions and like the jet wash and stuff, another really great opportunity to kind of practice oils and do blending with them in a way that makes a whole lot of sense. Just trying to very carefully get those parts in. I'll come back and fix that up later. Build that back out. But obviously redefining those separation, those details with a little bit of pin washing is another one of the strong aspects of oil. And this is what I was talking about earlier. This is kind of what started me into the whole like, well, I should learn more about oils because they're kind of fun. Because I started with literally just this. I started with just literally doing oil washes on things that I'd done with acrylics, and that got me a few oil paints. And then as I was going through looking at more and more things for how to use oils, I stumbled across a couple of like, well, this is how you paint with oils. And I came across actually a video about painting Darth Vader from Legion with oils. And I was like, that's so cool. I think I could do this. And so I started with Darth Vader, following kind of that instruction and that video on how to do chromatic blacks with oils. And from there, it was kind of just the push that I needed to start and figure things out. And once that little creative juice gets going and your interest is piqued, as you know, all of a sudden you're like telling yourself you're only going to go to the store and grab a couple of essential colors, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I need these other colors because they're using them, and that's really important. And before you know it, you have a whole starter set, and you got a bunch of colors, then you have a whole list of colors that you need, and you've painted some things, and you're getting better at it, but you're not quite there. And you're thinking, man, I just bought a new airbrush that I swore I was going to learn how to be better with, and I just got a whole bunch of new acrylic paints that I swore I was going to use, and now everything's all about just riding the high of the new technique. All right. I did. That's why she's very fuzzy. For those who joined late, when you do this oil technique, you're supposed to use makeup sponges. I forgot my makeup sponges this morning at my house, so I used Q-tips because that's what we had. Q-tips are a problem because they leave behind fuzzies. So don't use Q-tips, use makeup sponges. That was our number one lesson for the day. Come back in these areas around the thing. All right, well, we got many a mile to go left on this fine Bo-Katan, but we did do quite a bit, especially in an hour. We got the armor mostly blocked out. We have some pretty decent, like, flat gray kind of coloring on the armor. I won't call it non-metallic metal because that would be, I think, an insult to what true non-metallic metal looks like, but I'm pretty happy with it. We got to do all the straps and the leathers, then we got to go in and do the other stuff, but I've got so much time on her because my oils are going to take about a week to dry completely. So if I come back even tonight or sometime tomorrow, I'm still going to have perfectly workable oil paint. And sometimes you do have to walk away from the Mini and let your thinner kind of dry out and stuff. So trying to cram in an entire thing within an hour is probably not the most realistic situation, because, you know, if you try to paint over a thin paint, you can only go so thin with your paint before the paint just starts to pull off all the paint beneath it because there's too much thinner. And so it is a technique that gives you a lot of time, but it also asks a little bit more time. It's not as, I can't just pull out a hairdryer necessarily and go to town like I would on an acrylic paint job. But, you know, I also can't just come back through and completely change my mind on something. You know, I have so much time to be like, I don't like the way this looks, and I can just come in and wipe it all off. And I think that's one of the really cool things about oils as well, is that you can do so much practicing on just a single Mini because you can just clean it all off. You know, you just take your makeup sponge and wipe it all away, start again. So you can do a lot of practicing, and you have a lot of freedom to explore and experiment in ways that you might not feel comfortable with or be able to with acrylics, because once those acrylics dry, and they dry very quickly, you're kind of stuck unless you want to go through the whole process of stripping the miniature, and that's much, much more difficult than it is with oils. I just want to get in here and kind of clean up I made a mess and I need to fix it. So you just use like cheap synthetics. So like I just have a bunch of like random filbert brushes are really good for kind of layering on the color. Big rounds are great for laying down that initial pre-glaze. I've got a couple of like liner brushes, but they're all, the only thing that's actually what I would consider a nice or quality acrylic brush are, I have a couple of like round sables. They're very old and their lifespan has kind of been used up, but they make excellent scumbling brushes. So when I went in for my scumbling, which I'm going to do a little bit here because I've got some really gross marks on this helmet here that I want to try to like clean up. So when I went in for the scumbling, that is the point at which I'm using. I'll have to figure out those marks on the helmet later because I fixed my mistake, but I pulled up my little black glaze. So those are the only brushes that I would consider like nice brushes, but they're brushes that I was going to throw away anyway, and so they make perfect scumbling brushes because they're nice and soft, and rounds are just a nice size, and they kind of just work out well. But you can use anything for that process as well. So that's the other nice thing, is you don't have to invest a lot into expensive brushes. Okay, so we are 5 minutes past time. This is as far as we got on our oil exploration of Bo-Katan, but overall, like, we're real close. I'm gonna go back through and like kind of clean up some stuff. I need to get all of the straps that I've missed, go back through, highlight those up. And then once she's a little more dry, probably tomorrow, I'll go through and do a bit more pin washing to kind of get some more definition and stuff going on. But by and large, you can see, hopefully you can kind of see where the technique comes through and how you can get these really fun blends, and you can kind of mess with it a lot and get some really neat effects going on and have a lot of time to play with it and work with it, and even more time afterwards if you want to continue to mess around with it. So with that said, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to be back here tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific. Dallas Kemp is going to be doing up something special for Marvel Crisis Protocol. And then next week, I believe we're going to be having some gameplay streams, so go ahead and tune in for that. We'll be kicking off on Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific and Wednesday 1 p.m. Pacific as well. So be sure to join for those. Till next time, be good to each other. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.